Right, today we're joined by James Scott, Principal and CEO at Stockport College. So welcome, James, and hello to you.
Thank you.
These are exciting times for the college, aren't they? You know, following the merger with Trafford College and the £23 million programme of investment that is currently taking place on campus, it's a very exciting time to be involved at the college, and I know that you've got plans for the future as well, which are also exciting. So although a little belated, we'd just like to say congratulations on your appointment, and it is belated now, but there you go. But you know, very pleased to see you in your new position. And although you've been associated with the college for some time now, how have you seen Stockport College change and improve since the merger with Trafford College in 2018?
Yeah, thanks, Helen. So, I mean, obviously, we were very aware of some of the challenges of Stockport College when we merged in 2018. And some of that was probably justified, but, you know, as I go on in a moment, I think some of that may have been a bit of unfair in terms of perceptions. I mean, I think for many, many years, Stockport College has been a real key anchor institution in the local community for young people, for adults, for higher education, students, for businesses. And even though, you know, they went through a period of some tricky times, particularly around sort of Ofsted inspections, some of the financial challenges as a result of failed previous capital projects, notwithstanding that, you know, that they still remain that inclusive institution that so many of our residents in Stockport actually need. So for us, when we merged, it was about building on what good practice was already there. And there was lots of good practice. There was lots of good relationships with employers, with the local community. And it was really understanding what the college, in terms of Trafford College, could do to add value to Stockport as a result of that merger and how we could help them on that improvement journey. One of the key things we looked at straight away was the achievement of young people in particular. So the 16 to 18 cohort, their sort of achievement rates, which are the main sort of measure that colleges are based on, had been low for a number of years. That there was a lot of context to that there was a lot of reasoning for it, which I'll sort of come on to in a moment. But clearly what we needed to do was understand what was sort of happening with the sort of quality of education for young people, what was happening with those results. And ultimately, what did that curriculum need to look like to meet the needs of those young people? And I think sort of just to give you some statistics, one of the things we experienced sort of straight away at Stockport was the needs of the cohort were say very different to some other providers and colleges in the area. So for example, at Stockport College, you know, over half of the young people who join us have failed both maths and English at school. You know, they've not been able to get a grade 4 or above. And that's both subjects, you know, it's not just one or the other, that they've not been able to achieve either of those key subjects. And just to give you a sense of what that compares to nationally, it's about a third of young people going into sort of post-16 colleges who have not passed both of those subjects. And at Trafford College, it was around a quarter of young people who hadn't passed those subjects. So I think it just shows you that, you know, to some extent, Stockport College was a maths and English research college. And you know, being able to provide a good quality of education for those subjects was an essential part in terms of how we sort of improved the provision there. Around 1 in 3 young people at Stockport College have a special educational need or disability disclosed on entry. Of those, around sort of 1 in 10 students have an educational healthcare plan. So, you know, the context of the students is very different to, say, you know, Aquinas or indeed Trafford College. And we needed to do a lot of work to understand what did those students need to be successful. And part of that was around improving teaching and learning and working with teachers around how we could improve educational attainment for young people. But equally, a lot of it was around what support did we need to put into place for those young people, around additional learning support, around pastoral support, mentoring, counselling. And because of Stockport College is sort of financial position, prior to merger, those were key areas they had not been able to invest in. So all that additional support that is so crucial, in addition to what teachers do, they hadn't been able to provide at Stockport. And one of the advantages of the merger and what Trafford was able to bring to the table was being able to put more infrastructure in place around learning support, as well as improving the teaching work. And I think that was a key to how we've sort of improved those achievement rates. Just to give you a context of what that looked like. So in the first sort of 12 months, the achievement rates for young people improved by 10 percentage points to 80%. And then the year after, we improved by a further 3 percentage points to 83%, which actually put Stockport College in line with national FE colleges and not having a sort of gap of performance. And I think that was a sort of really good turnaround in terms of being able to build confidence, particularly with sort of key local stakeholders around the college is moving in the right direction. You know, it is improving educational outcomes for young people. And that was validated to a certain degree when we had an Ofsted monitoring visit a year after merger in April 2019, where they came in and they looked at 4 key themes of improvement that they wanted to explore on the back of the last full inspection of Stockport College. And against all of those 4 key themes, Ofsted judged us to have made significant progress, which is the sort of highest judgment they can give, which they said at the time was quite unusual because many colleges and providers were not getting that level of sort of confidence in those monitoring visits. So I think that was a kind of real validation of you know, all the work that staff and students and stakeholders have done to improve that position at the college. Notwithstanding that, though, I think it is fair to say that even though we knew, you know, in particular, the education for young people was a challenge, adult education results were very strong when we merged, and we've built on that. What we've done with adult education is actually increased the amount of provision on offer and really looked at how we can increase participation of adults across a range of different subject areas that weren't in place when we merged. So we looked at really increasing that portfolio of adult education. And the other kind of, you know, key element of success of Stockport over many years has been its higher education. And I often say to people, you know, it's one of the best kept secrets that Stockport has a higher education institution. You know, it has a university centre in the town. And even, you know, prior to merger, that higher education provision was held in very high regard. It had the sort of highest level of confidence from the higher education regulator in terms of its QAA inspection. It had confidence across all measures, which is, you know, that's the sort of best accolade you can get. And at the time as well, they had a good sort of TEF rating, so sort of TEF silver. So, you know, I think really there was lots of great success there already. And for us at merger, it was how could we build upon that and how could we really raise the reputation amongst the town.
I guess, unfortunately for Stockport College at the time, going back to those years when they were sort of had challenges in terms of Ofsted inspections, etc. I guess it was the fact that all these good points and all the successes were overlooked. But it's really good to see now that they're actually all coming to the forefront, which is, you know, only down to the team and the work that all your team have done, which is excellent. So there's a lot of investment going into the whole Stockport borough at the moment. There's this whole £1 billion investment into the town centre and the areas around, improvements to the transport interchange system, having a complete new transport interchange system, and so much going on in Mersey and working to create sort of more community living and to give Stockport town centre a real community feel and life in terms of residential developments. There's masses and masses of investment going on in the town centre at the moment. What role do you see the college in the continued development plans for the town and the community of Stockport? And I'll just give you an example in terms of, say, working with employers to help business recovery from the pandemic and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, we've kind of set ourselves 3 main objectives in terms of how we think we can contribute to Stockport's development as a town centre and not least its response to the current situation with the coronavirus pandemic and that whole piece around sort of recovery within the local authority area. So 3 things we're looking at the moment. One of those, as you say, is around business recovery. What can the college do to work more closely with employers to aid business recovery? And for us, you know, that's continuing to champion the cause of apprenticeships. And there is a real danger, I think, that as a result of this pandemic, we could see apprenticeship provision start to reduce. We could see employers, understandably, maybe sort of less in a position to be able to take on a young person as an apprentice or to be able to invest in training through the levy. So for us, it's really being able to champion that cause, which we're doing, promoting the different incentives that the government have put in place, particularly for 16 to 18-year-olds to support employers, mainly SMEs, to take on a young person, because, you know, it can still really be a situation where doing that can add value to your company, notwithstanding difficult times. But also it's about for us creating sort of, closer relationships with employers rather than just transactional ones. And as opposed to just being, a provider or a seller of apprenticeships, for us, it's really trying to understand with employers, what are the challenges they are facing? What are the particular skills needs that they have? How can the college support that? It might be through an apprenticeship route. Equally, there are many other things we can do to support employers through work placements as part of T-levels, for example. Around bespoke training we can do to meet employers' needs, around, working with employers where they may want to sponsor an individual to come onto one of our part-time courses. Apprenticeships are not the only option. And where we want to be is have much more joined up conversations with employers about this is what we as a college can do. What is it we can do to help you with your particular needs at the moment? And if it's not something we currently offer, then talk to us and we'll see if we can work with you to come up with a solution. Because I think it's absolutely critical that the college is at the forefront of helping businesses recover in Stockport. The two other areas we're looking at, which are not necessarily mutually exclusive, one of those is around adult education. So, again, like with apprenticeship incentives, the government are putting in place at the moment a lot of support and a lot of new initiatives around how can we work with adults to support them upskill, retrain, gain new qualifications, gain new skills, re-enter the labour market if they're in a position where they need to look for new employment. And one of those opportunities, for example, is the new Level 3 Skills Guarantee, which comes into place in April, where adults can now be sort of fully funded for their Level 3 qualification rather than taking out an advanced learner loan. So we're looking at the moment around, how can we sort of redesign our adult education portfolio that is both more flexible and has more range of an offer to really meet those needs about how can we support them upskill, retrain, or get back into employment if that's a position that they're in. So we're doing a lot of work around that at the moment in terms of the adult piece. The third element is really how can we understand the college's role as an anchor institution in the local community. It's a phrase that's often used, and I've used it myself many times. But for us, it's understanding what does that actually mean in practice. What does it mean for the college to be that anchor institution? And for us, that means being an inclusive organisation. I think one of the great things about Stockport College is we can pretty much find something for everybody. Regardless of whether you're a young person who hasn't done so well at school and you're looking to retake your GCSEs or take something a bit different, we can provide that. If it's young people looking to follow a particular technical or occupational route that they can't do at another college, we provide that. If it's for adults, as I said, looking to reskill or upskill, if it's students wanting a local higher education offer, we pretty much got something for everybody. We are genuinely an inclusive organisation. But we've been doing a lot more work beyond that and thinking about what is the college's role in terms of its civic duty. And beyond just providing education to residents, what is it we need to do to really support the community, particularly at this difficult time? One of the things we did actually before the pandemic was we set up the Stockport College Community Partnership, which was quite a unique undertaking. I've not seen something similar in any other college at the moment. And this was a process whereby we worked with a lot of the public sector organisations and a lot of third sector organisations we have partnerships with to say, how do we all come together as a group? And how do we look at a series of objectives around what is it we can do to join up support for students, either to individuals or groups, and get signposting to early help across the whole range of issues that our young people and their families are facing. How can we provide particular projects to work with specific areas of the college, specific areas of the curriculum to really add value to what they do? So a few examples of that, we have the Samaritans working with our construction students to raise awareness of mental health within the construction industry. We've got a home office project at the moment working with hair and beauty students called Cut It Out, which is raising awareness of domestic abuse and domestic violence. And if you're in a salon setting, in a hair or beauty setting, if somebody discloses to you in that workplace, as clients can do, because they see it as a safe space, if they disclose to somebody there, this is happening, what do you do as an employee in that salon to deal with that information? How do you react? So we're training students in terms of that to raise their awareness, and so they'll be able to respond to that when they're actually in the workplace setting, so they can respond to it appropriately. And there's lots of other projects like that we're doing at the moment around specific we can really add value. The third aim of the community partnership is the kind of knowledge exchange. So not information sharing as such for obvious reasons. It's more the kind of the general knowledge we're picking up in the community in terms of what challenges are being faced by residents of Stockport, what some of the support needs are, what some of the opportunities are, and how we can share approaches to that in a more joined up, cohesive way. And the fourth thing is really using that partnership as an advantage for our students to be able to access volunteering opportunities so they can realise their sense of civic duty and give something back to the community. And during the pandemic, that partnership really came into its own because we work very closely with partners to be able to provide relief support to students and their families. We had students volunteering through that partnership throughout the pandemic at Stepping Hill Hospital in health and social care settings, through going able to provide food packages and parcels to families. So that volunteering bit kind of came into its own during the pandemic, where students said, we want to give something back. What's the vehicle for us to do that? How can we help? So in summary, for us, it's those three key things. How can we help business recovery in Stockport? How can we have a more sort of cohesive approach to adult education, particularly to support people back into the labour market or to upskilling their existing roles? And the third thing is, really understanding what that role of being an anchor institution is in the community. Stockport College being truly inclusive for residents and students in Stockport.
I think throughout this whole COVID pandemic, one of the positives that has come out of it is how the community has pulled together. And it's been really good to see different areas within Stockport working together for the great and the good of the whole community and helping each other as well. I think that's been a really positive thing that's come out of all this. So in terms of the actual sort of the college's own redevelopment programme, would you just like to explain to us a little bit about what difference is this going to make? What are you bringing to the college that isn't already there? And how are you building that for the future with the investment that's taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the main thing it will bring is actually a cohesive campus, where at the moment, anybody who knows Stockport College can see it's a set of sort of disparate buildings and was developed over many years. A couple of tower blocks on the A6, the sort of historic Greek Street building down the side. And then at the back, we've sort of had the sort of Vernon Arts Centre, and then the newer buildings further down the A6 in terms of what we call the Bakewell and Whitworth buildings, the construction engineering blocks. Now they're staying in this redevelopment project, and what we're building is a cohesive campus around the newer part of the campus at that sort of far end of the A6. So at the moment, what you've got is a campus that's really not fit for purpose for students. The buildings in the main, other than those construction engineering blocks, are very, very old. The facilities in there, not really fit for purpose. Very little social space for students. And that's so important because, yes, a lot of your curriculum and your experience in college around what happens in the classroom, but equally, having that space to be able to develop those relationships and learn informally is something the college is missing. Obviously, at the moment, there's not much of that going on, given where we are with learning in lockdown and social distancing, etc. But, I think in the future, it's really key Stockport has a college that not only provides great educational facilities, but also great social facilities for students and to really support their development. Obviously, in terms of the educational facilities themselves, we're doing a lot of updating of areas such as arts, higher education, new hair and beauty salons, new science labs. So it really will be state-of-the-art facilities that students need, where at the moment they haven't got that. I often joke that, one of the science labs in the college at the moment is actually something that I would imagine was from the 19th century, literally. It probably needs preserving, to be honest, if we could, as a relic of that time. But, that just shows you what students, unfortunately, are contending with at the moment. And the new college will give them much, much better facilities.
I think it's really good to see that all the improvements are going in the college, and it's this inspiring people, isn't it? If you want to just, I think when you come into a building that is fresh and not necessarily brand new, but it's fresh and it's inspires you, it's good for the output from that is going to be far greater than going into a building that is dull, basically. Yeah. Isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And so at the moment, we're kind of doing it in two phases. So phase one of the project, which is at the back of the campus, which is the development of the new arts building and higher education block. That's all underway. It started in September and it's continuing, notwithstanding the current situation. So we're on track to have that completed, all being well, by the end of this academic year, in readiness for the opening in September. And then phase two of the project, which is the front of the campus, where we'll be moving out of the tower blocks into a redeveloped campus area nearer those newer blocks, as I said, further down the A6. That will start in the summer, and then we'll be looking for that to be completed sort of in 12 months' time after that. So really, we're looking at the moment to be completed by the autumn term of 2022, which seems like a long time coming, just given where we were since merger, but actually, it's not that long to wait now, and we'll be up and running then with a brand new campus, which will be great.
I think everybody will be looking forward to seeing that as well. You mentioned earlier on about the T levels. What's your opinion of the new T levels? And is Stockport College offering any this coming year, or when do they actually come into play?
Yeah, so this coming year, Stockport College will be offering T levels in the areas of construction and childcare and education. And then not long after that, we'd be looking to introduce other areas such as digital, health, business, engineering, which would be the sort of following year. So those will be in place starting this September with that gradual rollout. My view of them is, I think like all new qualifications, when they come on stream, they'll sort of take time to sort of bed in, sort of find the right market. I think for me, the concept of them is absolutely right, because I think we do need to have in this country a gold standard of technical education at level 3. And, we do know that one of the challenges is for many young people and parents, the view is, golden ticket is A-levels and university. And if you don't do that route, you're somehow seen as maybe second best. I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think people do see value in vocational qualifications and apprenticeship. And I think that's definitely changed over the past 10 years, particularly apprenticeship. But there's definitely more work we need to do around the value of technical and vocational education. And I think with T levels being pitched, as very demanding qualifications, and I've done quite a lot of research and looking at the content of them, and they are as demanding as an A-level qualification, if not slightly more so. And I think the challenge we will all have in providing these new qualifications, how do you persuade a young person and parents where they may well have the sort of qualifications at Key Stage 4 and the aspiration to do A-levels. Actually, here's something else equally as difficult, equally as demanding, but is actually going to open doors in a different route. And A-levels and university, there will always be a place for them. Absolutely. And people talk at the moment about actually, is this a time when things will change with university, given the experience that students are having with higher education? I don't think that'll be the case at all. We should always promote A-levels and university because there is a place for them. But equally, there is a place for students doing high value, high quality technical education leading into a specific job role and having the right skills and knowledge to be able to do that from an early age of 18. And that's really what the T levels are designed to do. So I'm sort of optimistic that they're the right thing to do. I think it's a good qualification. I think it will take time to bed in. There's a lot of work we'll need to do with young people and parents in particular to make them understand what they are. A lot of work with businesses because, at the moment, I think for businesses in particular, the education landscape is seen as confusing. You've got GCSEs, you've got A-levels, you've got BTECs, you've got City and Guilds qualifications, you've got apprenticeships. What does it all mean? And I think the government are trying to really narrow the number of qualifications on offer, which in some ways is a good thing because what it does is it creates coherence for employers and parents around what is on offer and what the value of things are. Well, I just think the danger is if they go down too narrow a route, saying, well, you can only do an A-level, a T-level, or apprenticeship, and there's nothing else, then, they potentially end up creating a social mobility issue, in my view, because there are other qualifications that, are equally valuable and serve the purpose. So I think there's a lot of complexity and things that need to be sort of sorted out with this, and we'll see how things sort of develop over the next year or two. But certainly from Stockport College's point of view, we're fully on board with T levels. They will be a key part of our offer. we did feel at Stockport College it was a really good way to differentiate what Stockport College does compared to other good providers like Aquinas, Cheadle and Marple. To say that actually we don't do A levels at Stockport College. We've no aspiration to reintroduce A levels. We do some level 3 BTECs, but a lot of our students are really going into those technical areas and those occupational areas. That's what we're good at. That's what we excel at. And I think having T levels will only add value to that and really promote to students. You can get a great career by following a more technical route. You don't just have to go down the A level and the university route to think you've got it.
Absolutely. We've talked about how the merger with Trafford College has really benefited Stockport College and becoming part of the Trafford group now. And we've talked about the future of the college and what the future looks like and how exciting it is. There's also, you just touched upon it there, what benefits do you see the proposed merger with the Cheadle and Marple College bringing to Stockport?
Yeah, I think this one gives a really good opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity, to relook at the landscape of post-16 education in Stockport. I think you could argue in Stockport that there is an awful lot of choice. I think it's fairly unusual that it's probably the only Greater Manchester authority that has 3 FE colleges in the local area. At Trafford, we've only got 1. Many other local authorities might just have an FE college in a 6th form, whereas what we've got in Stockport is an FE college, 2 6th forms, plus of course, all the great schools we have doing 6th form provision and A levels as well. So I think this gives us a chance to kind of make that landscape a bit more joined up, a bit more cohesive. I think we believe that with Cheadle and Marple, we can bring a lot of value to each other. We will be stronger together as institutions, and we can really look at that vocational landscape for 16 to 18 year olds. We can really start to look at the adult education portfolio, because both of us have strong adult education provision, so we can sort of bring that together and really look at what are those adult education needs for Stockport and how can we as a joint provider be that sort of provider of choice for Stockport around adult education. So I think there's a lot of advantages from that point of view, because there is an argument at the moment that potentially that landscape is a bit confused for post-16 in Stockport, and that actually there is a danger, particularly for 16 to 18, there may be an oversupply of provision. Something we're looking at closely, because obviously the demographics are going up in Stockport, that there is a need for more sort of 16 to 18 places, but at the same time there is an awful lot of provision in Stockport for that age group, and for us it's really understanding how can we make it more cohesive, and by coming together we certainly do that.
That's really good news. James, thank you very much for your time. We've thoroughly enjoyed learning about the future for Stockport College. It's been great. We've been involved with the college for some time, and it's been really sort of inspiring to see where the college has come from, where it is now, where it's going in the future. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Ellen. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.